All right, welcome back to the next episode of The Average. Today we're diving into a slightly older film. It's from December of last year, but this was a listener request.
Yep.
But we hinted at it in the last episode. We're diving into Puss in Boots: The Last Wish.
Yes, sir. This is one that I mistakenly thought was a movie from this year, actually, because it came out so late last year. I actually just got around to watching it based off of the viewer request and because I was just really excited to see this movie at some point. Just no one wanted to come with me to the theaters to watch it. So
yeah, I didn't want to pay the price of the ticket.
And look how regretful you feel now.
I don't at all.
Yeah. Anyway,
this guy scored it the same as Top Gun Maverick.
There's a couple things I was going to change about it, but I was just more again in the moment, Tim.
It is about in the moment.
Score means
reaction.
nothing. Anyway,
so but that actually brings about a good point. I wanted to do a little after our last Fight Night episode, Bad Times at the El Royale. I wanted to reiterate, like, the point of this is to celebrate the different ways that people view movies. Not everybody's going to see movies the same way.
True.
And I am just as guilty as getting heated when somebody doesn't see a movie the same way as I do.
What?
Because
nah, Tim,
I get very
crazy.
Passionate about things that I like, and so I get defensive of them.
Guys, don't listen to Tim. He doesn't get passionate about it.
Go back and listen to the Bad Times episode and you'll see. All right. But this is a Fight Night Part 2 episode because we did not see this movie the same way.
Yeah.
At all.
Disclaimer, I did not call this a masterpiece, but I like how you hyped it up to get people over here to listen to it.
I wasn't necessarily quoting you. So
I know it's okay.
I'll point out that I am definitely in the minority here.
You probably are.
And
yes.
Oh, I totally am. And I'm going to keep my comments nice and simple and just how I viewed the movie. There's a lot of great things about this movie, but you can't find a negative review online.
Oh yeah, no,
like,
this movie
it
has
doesn't
gotten,
exist.
nothing but praise from what I've seen. No one's saying that this is the biggest movie ever, or like, it's this like fantastical masterpiece. It's just like, no, people are saying this is a really, really solid movie.
Oh.
And actually there's a lot of fingerprints on this one from movies before it, where you can kind of tell this is kind of where the future's going for animated movies, and it's really awesome to see that coming to fruition through a movie like Puss in Boots.
Everything I've seen online is pretty much unanimous that this movie is great. I have seen a lot of people call it a masterpiece. That's why I brought that up. I just respectfully disagree. There are things that I really like about it, but some things that we'll get into as we dive into this.
Well, you know what, Tim? Let's go ahead and take the earrings out. I hear that you actually have some special intro stuff planned here, and I am not aware of it, so please fill me in.
So Bryce has been waiting to hear this. I wrote, so diving into the story. So we'll just go right into the story. I'll give you my premise of the story. Do you want to give a quick
synopsis of the actual story?
I'll read my synopsis.
Okay, this is what he was telling me about. I'm curious because I was like, he's doing this in bad faith, but
it's not in bad faith. This is how I saw the movie.
Okay, what's the synopsis of this movie?
We open up on our favorite fearless hero as he sings an obnoxious song in what seems to be a bar. Some indistinct time has passed since our last Puss in Boots movie, and our hero has continued his self-bloviating antics and sings about how great he is as he heroically fights some giant thing in a truly epic and beautifully constructed scene.
Okay.
But he dies, and we learn through a scene that wants us to laugh but gives us little reason to, that he has already used 8 of his lives. And all of a sudden, we learn that our fearless hero is actually very afraid of losing his 9th life. And so he was really only heroic because he thought he couldn't die. And with death literally knocking at his doorstep, he decided to take the fat Thor route of hiding and growing a beard, which makes as much sense as Thor getting fat. Here, we waste far too much time in a scene that is barely watchable and only serves as a catalyst to the plot, which is our selfish, scared hero has learned of a way to get his lives back. So he embarks on an epic quest filled with adorable Perito and so many annoying villains. But everybody is after the last wish for themselves, so the epic quest, full of selfish characters, except Perito, continues towards the final revelation you saw coming after the opening scene, and witness a truly incredible villain become a side character in a story that should have been about him. That's my
I'm
synopsis.
gonna bite my
of
tongue
this.
as we get into this review. Because
That's my synopsis of the film.
while I agree with most of what you said, that was definitely an over dramatized.
I wanted to inject some humor in what I knew would be
short
Fight
of what
Night.
this movie truly is. But at the very base, yes, this is a story about a kitty cat or a man. I almost said man.
A kitty cat.
Well, I mean, Antonio, the guy
Antonio Banderas.
he is a man. So, I mean, but yeah, this is a pretty basic story of this man is on his last life. Hey, guess what? There's this thing that can hopefully save all of that, and we have a bunch of characters who have a motive to go get it. And bada bing, bada boop. Here we go. Adventure time. Pretty straightforward story.
Do you have your score?
I do have my score. We can figure it out. It's fine. But anyway, with that being said, is there anything else up your sleeve that I don't know about?
No. That was just my synopsis
Okay, cool.
to lead off.
So now that you're in the defense chair this week, go ahead and kick us off with.
I'm not. No, you mean the offense chair?
No, you're in the defense. You put me in the defense chair for bad times. You're in the defense because
Okay.
your opinion is way worse than mine was for bad times at the El Royale.
but I know I'm in the minority here.
Yeah,
so
I know. But
all right,
you're in the defense. So go ahead and kick us off with story and plot.
Well, this is what I meant. Like, we've actually got quite a few reviewers here, and
Yes, we do.
Your wife scored the movie story a 3.
Mm-hmm.
At Owen Oswald scored it a 4. Extreme Reviews scored it a 3, and I actually scored it a 2.
All right, defend
And
yourself.
It's a
Heresy.
It's a typical quest story, adventure story, which there's nothing inherently wrong with it, but it is a quest to retrieve an object at the end of the movie, which has been done many times.
It has.
Yep.
Seriously, that's it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That's it too.
here's why you're wrong, Tim. So actually, I agree with you completely, which is why I gave it a 4. Because at the end of the day, even though you're absolutely right, this would be a 3 for me, honestly, because it is just a straightforward story of a bunch of characters. This one thing can fulfill their wishes. Bam, let's all just go and run for it and fight for it, kind of thing. That is a very straightforward story. The difference here is, and we were literally talking about this today when we were driving to the gym. I told Megan, like, the difference with this movie and this story is when I think of this story and I like recap it in my head, I'm not reminded specifically of any other movie that shares the same exact plot just off the top of my head. Like, if there's a movie that I see where the story is obviously regurgitated, which every story at this point is regurgitated, there's not really a truly original story ever, unless you really try hard, or you're Christopher Nolan, who just recycles the same story about time.
Yeah,
and
all
of
the
his
stories
movies.
about time in different versions. Yeah.
But we still love him. But when I think of this movie's story and the plot and the way that it was carried out, nothing pops into my head right away of any other movie that uses the same. And I know for a fact that this is a very, very reused story through a ton of movies. But I think this movie takes its story and its plot and it gives it its own unique style and character that it stands on its own 2 legs. You don't have to compare it to another movie because I don't think of another movie right away. I think of this movie as its own movie because there's enough that separates it from those other movies that share the same story and plot that makes it unique enough. That's like, okay, that even though this story has absolutely been used a billion times over, it's still unique enough and it stands out above the rest. And in fact, it runs laps over a lot of the movies that we've seen over the past few years from Hollywood at this point. And I think that deserves a 4 at the very least, comfortably.
Okay. Yeah, I think I grew up reading the Redwall books all the time. Every single one of those is a quest story about the friends you meet along the way.
Classic.
And how they come to aid you in the end and join you in the end. And that, like, in a way, this definitely reminded me of, like, hey, we're going to that. Where I struggled a lot in the story is just the intense selfishness that is everybody's motivation.
And you're the same person that says Tony Stark is an awful written character in Marvel.
Because he's intensely selfish.
Oh, you make me so mad with your opinions. Anyway, let's move on before we get too deep into this. There's plenty of movies to talk about.
I have a problem with selfish heroes because it goes against...
Hold on. Tim has a problem with characters that have a true story arc in a movie?
Selfish heroes. No,
we'll get to it when we talk about the end of this movie, but next up is characters.
That's what I said.
Let me go ahead and kick us off here. So for characters, I ended up giving mine a 5 out of 5. Same thing that we talked about last week. I'm spacing. John Wick. I don't think there's a single character I didn't thoroughly believe and enjoy this entire movie. I like every single character. They fit exactly the role that they're given. None none of them feel like they're, what's the word I'm thinking of, overplaying their role that they're written as. The only one that you could probably argue for sure is was the pie. What's his name? It's literally the nursing room.
It's Big Jack Horner.
Yes, Jack. I think you could definitely make the argument that he is the weakest, and that might bring it down to a 4. But even his parts felt right in place, and he was kind of more of a relief from the other characters and the deeper stories that were coming from them. He was more of he's not the comedic relief, I would say, but he's definitely that one like offbeat character that kind of brings a little bit like, oh, this a little change of pace when you have the other stories. Considering all your characters have super deep like arcs with all of them, he's kind of the one that stands out. It's like, that's kind of fresh and new. He's just like pretty cut and dry, and he kind of sticks through that. But outside of that, unlike what you think, I think Puss in Boots has a phenomenal arc through this, and his character has a phenomenal story and arc through this entire movie. I think, in case you didn't know already, the main villain, who is Death. I don't know, what is his real name? Do they just call him Death in this? I thought he had another name possibly. I could be wrong.
He's just Wolf.
Just Wolf, yeah. So he's the Wolf. Like he's literally Death in this movie. Like he is dead. Like he just kind of comes for people when it's time to die, basically. And Puss is on his last life. And his whole arc around this movie is that Puss is this, as Tim said, a super selfish douchebag, basically, who has just used his life.
You're gonna have to censor this episode.
he uses his life for his own pleasure and his own joy. And his whole thing when he is introduced in the beginning of the movie is that it just makes him sick that Puss used his life for something like that, and he has been dying to just kill him, basically, to take him, to death row. But I don't agree with you in the sense that Death becomes a side character. I think he's perfectly placed where he needs to be. Where
you mean one scene at the end of the first act and then again in the finale?
No, he's throughout the entire thing.
Yeah, he pokes up just to remind you that he's there, but
Wolf
doesn't do anything.
The villain you wanted him to be. I think Wolf was a different kind of villain where he is that ever. Again, it goes with the story and plot where he is that ever looming.
My problem's not with Wolf.
No, again, Wolf is the ever the presence of death that we all come to terms with eventually at the end of our lives. And I think that's more of what his character was supposed to represent, rather than just being the big baddie. Jack is technically the big baddie of this movie.
He's terrible.
I wouldn't say terrible, but I think his character and the way that he plays out in this movie, more of that, he's just lurking around every corner, and he has a few good scenes where he kind of justifies why he's there, and kind of takes Puss and puts the mirror in front of him, and gives him reason why he's so ready for this moment, ready to finally take that final life away from Puss in Boots. I think that was actually a really unique and really awesome interpretation of death that I'm not saying I haven't seen in a movie before. I can't think of one off the top of my head. I just thought that was really cool and unique, and they played it off almost to perfection, honestly. You see it as a side character. I see it as a really awesome interpretation of death, and not as just another just big baddie for Puss in Boots to fight. I thought that was a really awesome way to interpret that. Goldilocks and the Three Bears hit a lot deeper than I thought they were going to. As the movie progressed, it just was, man, as it kept progressing, I was like, okay, this will be just some fun side characters. Nah, their story just got deeper and deeper, and that hit me in the core by the end. I was like, dang, those characters did not deserve that much depth to them, and it's more of them as a whole, as a group. I don't want to, if you take them individually, they're nothing, but that's the point. They're a family, and that dynamic plays out really well. I've probably talked a little too long about this, but
yeah, you're really defending it.
Anyway, I loved all the characters. They're all great. I think they all were taken and used in really fun ways that progressed the story, and I thought Wolf was just a really awesome standout villain in this movie. 5 out of 5.
So Megan also gave it a 5 out of 5.
Cool. Nice.
Owen Oswald also gave it a 5 out of 5. Extreme Reviews gave it a 4 out of 5. And I gave it a 3 out of 5.
Okay.
Mainly, Puss in Boots does have a good arc in the film. He does, going from the selfish character to realizing to appreciate his life that he has. I think Death is the highlight. Wolf is the highlight of the film. Oh
yeah, absolutely. He is the top character of this film.
The only complaint I have of Death is the underutilization of Death in this film. And the argument could be made it is a kids movie, and some of the scenes with Death are pretty intense. And so
well, it is a kids movie, but yeah, it is.
Right.
This is not.
Well, no,
like,
I'm
just-
saying if you had more of him, it might have pushed the movie too intense
Probably.
for younger viewers. But I thought Death was fantastic. My problem is I don't see what Goldilocks has to do with anything in the end of the movie. And Jack Horner drove me crazy. And I wanted out of this story that is definitely about not really the last wish, it's about Puss's last life. He is on his last life, and the best moments of this film are not Goldilocks and the Three Bears, are not Jack Horner. It is Puss and Death. Those are the best moments of this film, and if this film had focused more on that centrally, it would have been better.
You don't think they focus enough on that?
Centrally, I mean, like, get rid of Jack Horner, because he was nothing but a distraction by the end, and he drove me crazy. And I think a lot of that was almost to do with kids' attention spans.
That's fair.
There's a lot of flashy lights. There's a lot of quick stuff. There's a lot of action in this movie.
Yeah. That's
And that slows down some of the character development. And I think it also
Really?
hurt. Oh, yeah.
interesting.
I didn't think Goldilocks and the Three Bears was deep at all. The family she had along all the way, who didn't see that coming.
Right, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't hit at the end still.
It does if you just like scratch the surface of it. If you're just like, oh, the family she had along the way. I saw that sign at Bed Bath & Beyond.
That doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if you see it. See, this is what I don't get. You'll rate the characters a 5 out of 5 in Bad Times at the El Royale, who had way less depth than any of these characters did.
We're not attacking a different movie. I'm just telling you what
It's just
I
interesting that you would rate that a
Jack
5
Horner
out of 5.
had no depth.
No, I know, but that's the point.
Yeah.
I think that was the point. Like, I think he was a nice relief from the other stories that were being told in the movie. He's kind of that one relief character. It was like,
see, that's why I just think we didn't need him. We didn't need him at all.
Of course, you probably don't need him necessarily, but I think he's a good addition. He doesn't feel forced into the story. He's just another piece to this big puzzle that's coming together at the end of the story. And he does create more. He creates a conflict that furthers the story along still. And now, yes, you could probably take him out and you could probably still write a story that was better. But
because what did he add or take away from the search for the last wish?
Again, I think for the point of the story, he brings a more of relief from the deeper stories that are being told from our other characters. Whereas I'm not saying he's a comedic relief. I think, what was his name? The dog, Perrito. Yeah, Perrito's more of the comic relief, I would say. And even Perrito has some like deep moments. Like the one scene
Perrito was my actual favorite character of the movie.
No, the one scene where like Puss is having a panic attack and like there's not even words being spoken. He just like lays on his chest. It's like,
yes.
Wow, that was like
no, that one got me.
Hits, doesn't it?
That one got me,
Yeah,
and that got me more than. That's what I'm saying. That like I think the three central memorable characters of this film are Puss is having a panic attack after seeing death. Good,
yeah,
like
good moment.
that's a good moment, and then Perrito is there to comfort. And Perrito though has no real arc this whole time. He is just Perrito, but Perrito is great.
Yeah, he doesn't have an arc, but I think
there's no revelation for him. He's there to
progress the others
be the revelation.
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That is like those three characters to me. Like this movie almost suffers a Spider-Man 3 for me. I think there's too much. There's too much between Jack Horner, too much between Goldilocks and Death. On top of that, as well as Kitty's soft paws, and it's just like okay.
Kitty, even though Kitty's a great character, she doesn't really overstay her welcome though. She's not really at the focal point of a lot. She has one part where her and Puss were like supposed to get married or whatever. And
yeah,
like,
it's a whole storyline I don't need.
But it's only like 5 minutes of the movie. Like they talk about it for like 5 minutes and that's it. Yeah. Like it's not like Catwoman and the Batman where that takes up 45 minutes of the entire movie.
And should have been a separate movie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We'll get to that movie eventually.
No, I agree. And that's one where like I didn't really count that against it because I kind of assumed it was from another movie that I didn't see. Like I wondered if that was the previous Puss in Boots movie, which I saw so long ago I don't even remember.
That was a good movie too.
So that's like there were three characters in here that I really enjoyed. The rest of it I thought was noise, and they weren't awful characters. It was a logical telling of Jack Horner. I did appreciate the Pinocchio reference in his story.
Yeah. That was a good joke.
That was one of the only clever jokes in the film.
Oh my gosh.
That and Goldilocks is a logical story to tell in this one. I just feel like we didn't need it. We didn't need to throw in another person to tell the story of enjoying the life you have right now when we are focused on Perito enjoying the life he has right now, Puss in Boots enjoying the life he has right now, Kitty Softpaw. Like, we don't need more. And that's where I say, like, it kind of added that Spider-Man 3 for me. There's so many characters all at one time.
I think you're misunderstanding it, but that's okay. We should move on. And next up is music and sound. You can go ahead and kick us off with
music
this one.
and sound. Megan scored it a 3.
Okay.
Owen Oswald scored it a 5. Extreme
nice.
Reviews scored it a 3. And I scored it a 3. And I scored it a 3. I love the little bit of Spanish flair in the music that just goes with the character.
Mm-hmm.
And that's great, but it could just be my lack of knowledge with Puss in Boots. I don't recognize a theme song, which is generally like when I score 4s and 5s, I'm looking for an recognizable sound for a character.
Yeah.
And I didn't really get that. The music was really well done.
Oh, yeah.
There was some interesting choice of like almost, was it dance beats or techno beats thrown into a couple scenes that I kind of questioned that use. I didn't hate it. It did just for a moment. I was like, I don't know that I like that. And then I was like, okay, I moved on with it.
Right,
but the couple moments that really brought in the Spanish guitars and into it really kind of give you that Puss in Boots flair. And I thought they did a nice job with that. But I probably, like, I haven't gone back and listened to the soundtrack. I'm not sure I'd recognize any of it outside of that movie, but it did a nice job supporting the film and the scenes that it was in.
Yeah, I won't spend too much time because I gave it a 4 originally, and that was just coming fresh off of the movie. But then I thought about it more, and I was just like, I kind of came to the conclusion you did. Like, it's not as memorable. I love the music. I thought the music was fantastic, honestly. But
the favorite fearless hero gets stuck in your head.
Oh, it does. Yeah, absolutely.
I want it out of my head.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the music is really fantastic. It's super catchy in the moment. But once you're done watching the movie, it's not doesn't have as much staying power as some other movies do. So I think a very strong 3 is comfortable. You could give it a 4.
I debate. That's one that I would probably give 4 because they do use some unique flair to it.
Yeah, and it does sound good. Like I do love the opening tracks that they use. I thought it was really good to like set the tone and whatnot.
So this next category is actually unanimous.
Well, congratulations to us, I guess. Oh, we all agree. All right, I'll kick us off, I guess. Or do you want to?
No, you go ahead because it's unanimous. Everybody scored the same. So
anyway, it's a 5 out of 5. Yeah. It's not even close.
The editing and special effects in this movie.
This movie was just like cotton candy, man. It was just so much fun to watch and enjoy.
I agree. It looks great. The movie looks fantastic.
Yeah, and I said at the beginning, like, this movie is a perfect example of the ripple effects that Into the Spider-Verse had on the animation industry. Like,
it's not quite as bold as Spider-Verse.
No, I think it's a different kind of.
It definitely takes cues. So what I noticed in the comparison of the two films is we're kind of going, and I go to Borderlands and video games as kind of.
No, that's true.
It reminds me because it's not really going for realism.
No,
it's going for an artistic style, which that artistic style will look good in 10 years because it's a style to the film. Whereas if we go back to animated movies that were trying to be realistic, like the Polar Express, like I know people,
I like the movie.
I know people love that movie, but those dead eyes and some of those, like they were going for that realism that just doesn't hold up as we get better with it.
Right. Yeah.
Whereas if you go with that unique artistic flair, just like Borderlands in the video games never went for realism. It went for a unique,
like a comic book style vibe.
Yeah, and then Spider-Verse brought that to the screen where it's doing its own thing. And then Puss in Boots is the next in that, like, where you can see brush strokes. And clearly it wasn't made with a brush, but they're going for that unique artistic flair that just looks fantastic.
It had that baseline flair that Spider-Verse has, and they just kind of made it their own with what the movie they were making, because they're two very different, like, settings for movies, And so I think that kind of lends itself to why it's not quite Spider-Verse, but that's a good thing. Like,
well, and this one gave me more of a painted impression.
Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Where
too.
Spider-Verse is definitely more comic,
like Renaissance painting, like come to life, basically.
It's beautiful to look at.
Yeah, absolutely.
Puss in his fur at times just looks fantastic.
The fight sequences are just animated to perfection.
I was gonna get into that in the directing.
Yeah, so let's just keep going then. I guess. What's next?
So next we go into script.
Yep. Go ahead, kick us off.
So Megan gave it a 5. Owen Oswald gave it a 4. Extreme Reviews gave it a 4. And I gave it a 3. So my main reason for giving it a 3 is, I'll be honest, I laughed twice at this movie. 2 times. And it's definitely trying to have some more humor than that. But the jokes didn't land with me. It wasn't working there. And I also, like we kind of went into the story, I appreciate the attempts to tell some deeper stories. I felt like it just scratched the surface of those. And I know that argument is to be made that it definitely dove into that and it's there. And like I said, I'm clearly in the minority on this because you can't find...
Don't you forget about it.
You can't find a bad review online. But I feel like you can tell a deeper story through your script and still keep parents and adults interested in a kids movie.
You don't think parents and adults are interested?
Oh no, it's clearly online they are, but I was not. I was kind of bored.
You know, Tim, just refer to you when you talk about this movie moving forward.
Well, I'm
like
referring to adults
right now.
You're sitting here twiddling your thumbs.
Hey, give me credit. I have been very respectful so far.
Yeah. So I gave it a 3 because the humor didn't always hit for me.
Right.
And I thought there's something that bothers me about the conflict resolution at the end of the movie. I think that's my biggest problem about there was this moment to have a great revelation and it just kind of happens and we move on. And it wasn't the deep, profound thing that I was hoping it would be. It wasn't exactly what I wanted out of not necessarily what I wanted, but where I thought the resolution was going to go.
I mean, where did you think it was supposed to go?
It just happened quickly. It was too quickly.
Well, what did you what were you expecting?
So, for example, why does Death move on?
I mean, because it's Death. Like, he still has his life. Like, but also, he comes to a resolution at the end because Puss is finally using his life for something that's actually worthy of keeping alive in Death's eyes. I mean, you know, he's not being selfish about it. He's actually he's laying down, he's ready to die. Like Puss even says, like he's about to die, but he's going to do it for the right reasons. And that's the whole reason behind why Death was even coming for him in the first place, was because he's just using his lives just to benefit himself and push himself up above everyone else. But then he finally uses his last life. He knows he's going to die. Like Wolf tells him, like, this is the moment to die. And like even Puss admits it, like, yep, here it is. But I'm gonna use this last life on something that's actually worth fighting for. And that's the point. Is like Death wanted him because he was using his lives for anything but that. But since he's finally using it, it's like, well, why waste a good life then?
Yeah,
that's the point.
So what was he fighting for?
The people around him, the people he loved and cared about.
Here's my Death wasn't there for them. So why is he fighting Death?
Because Death was coming for him to kill him.
Death was coming for him,
right?
Not the other people. So why is Puss fighting for the other people?
Because he's giving
moment.
No, the whole point of the movie was he was going for that wishing star because even if he was right before, he literally was the one who ran away with the map, and they all thought he was running away with it because he was running away with it. He admits to it, like, I need this because I need my 9 lives back. But he finally gives that up, and he's like, okay, I don't need my 9 lives anymore. And because of that,
so you brought up exactly the problem. Even in that scene, 5 minutes before, Puss was still in it for himself. And because of one line given to him by Perito at the end, he changes course. It wasn't what I wanted, was this journey. And we get kind of a flashback of the journey after that one line. And it just felt so skimmed over and quick. And I'm like, you had all of the parts there.
Yeah, and they executed it.
And they executed it as quickly as possible and scampered off the screen.
I don't believe that at all.
Yeah.
I think you watched that in a very different way. I think you let your expectations get the best of you in that situation.
Yeah, because everybody said this movie was fantastic, so I did have high expectations.
It was.
I did have.
You should know better than to believe people on the internet, Sam. Temper your expectations.
I should. But like the main reason why I took off on the script was the humor did not land for me, and fair. That is
I can understand.
I don't usually watch comedies. I don't like. I'm very picky.
I don't want to do a comedy with you. I feel like we would just.
I'm very picky. I can name the number of comedies I enjoy on one hand.
So for future reference, if you guys want comedy movies, send them to me. I love comedy.
Well, we can still review them. But,
oh my gosh!
Like, what's one of your favorite comedies?
Whew, man, I'm gonna go. I love the Naked Gun movies, specifically 1 and 2.
I've never seen those.
Airplane. I like that one too.
A good one.
Yeah, he's that same guy. Like kind of like that was a whole genre for a little bit too.
In the 80s
Happy Gilmore
90s,
is just one of my absolute favorite movies of all time. I love. You know that one?
Yeah, I know.
Okay, you made a face. I thought you didn't.
The only Adam Sandler movie that's worth any time.
Tough, but I can understand it. I guess.
I guess the first Grown Ups wasn't awful.
It's a guilty pleasure at best.
Yeah, it's a guilty pleasure.
Still an awful movie. Anyway, we're getting off track here. Back
script for you.
Yeah, script for me. I give this a 4 out of 5. I don't think it's masterful. I think it's clever and witty. I'll give it that. Like that's the best thing I can say about this script. I think the characters and their lines are delivered. I'm a sucker for just witty humor. Like I like fun sarcasm. I don't like sarcasm that makes you look like a total butthole. Like
right. Like Marvel's been using lately.
I was gonna say Cassie, but you know,
yeah. No, it's definitely like the Marvel wave of humor lately. I'm a sarcastic jerk.
This harkens back to the Shrek movies, which I love the Shrek.
See, I didn't think it did.
You are. I'm gonna keep talking. Don't mention it.
I thought the Shrek movies were far cleverer in their humor than this one was. Far more clever.
There you go.
Yeah, far more clever in their humor than this one was.
No, this movie, I think this movie reminded me of everything I do love about the Shrek movies. Okay. I think the script is super clever with its characters. They have some great one-liners in there. Like I said, you could argue Jack absolutely is the weakest character, but I think his lines that he says in this movie are funny. They give me a good chuckle. Again, I like how cut and dry his jokes are in his character. I love every time you get to see that dynamic between Wolf and Puss. Those are scene stealers every time. I love how Death just kind of comes in. Death is just such a great character, and Wolf is awesome.
Death was a great character.
He has some of the greatest lines, and he has the best lines in this movie, period. And it's executed through the animation style and just his threatening presence on screen. But yeah, I don't have much more. I just think that this script runs laps around some of the other movies I've seen lately when it comes to the script. It's funny, it's clever, it's smart, it's heartwarming at times, and yeah, I don't think it's a masterpiece, but I think it knows exactly what it is, and it absolutely knocks it out of the park with what it was given or what it chose to pursue with these characters.
Okay.
What's next?
Next we go into the acting.
Oh, the acting, which is fun because this is voice acting.
So this is voice acting. Megan gave it. I gotta follow the line here. Megan gave it a 5.
Yeah. Okay.
Owen Oswald gave it a 5. Extreme Reviews gave it a 4, and I gave it a 3.
Okay, go ahead.
Dylan, or not Dylan? Oh gosh,
Dylan.
Wrong Mulvaney.
I was gonna say Dylan who?
No, John Mulaney does his best Spider Pig impersonation as Jack Horner.
So that was Spider Pig, right?
Yeah, he was Spider Pig.
I knew his voice, and I just couldn't put a finger on it. I was like,
the only thing I could hear the entire movie was Spider Pig.
I just washed my hands.
Yeah, Spider Pig the entire time, and the rest of the cast was good. Antonio Banderas was good as Puss. Harvey Guillen was great as Perrito.
Oh yeah,
he was a standout as Perrito.
Job. Yeah. How do you do one of those like characters who's supposed to obviously be the selling point for toys clearly, and like the comedic relief, like to have a voice that isn't super irritating and just grinds your gears, but actually like holds a lot of like emotional weight to it and brings this character to life and makes him super. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely.
He was a standout to me. Florence Pugh gets to use her real voice and not try to do an American accent. But the rest of it I just thought was good. There wasn't Selma Hayek just kind of does the same voice the whole movie. I mean, she's playing the same character, but I just kind of felt it all carried the same emotion throughout. But it was good voice cast. It didn't really strike out as like amazing to me, but it was solid all the way around. My big drawback was John Mulaney's Spider-Pig voice, and I just feel like he's always does his voice.
I mean, it's kind of voice acting nowadays.
Yeah, I just
actors
like
doing their voices.
I come from the Mark Hamill Joker school where
where people actually had to like give some effort into creating a voice.
Yeah, and
No,
that to me is the reason why like you would have to have somebody doing that for me to give this a 5 in voice acting, because people who go into that and do unique voices and truly embody a character through a voice, whereas I felt like these voices, and that's Harvey did that for Perito.
Yeah, totally.
He did that for Perito, but the rest of the cast kind of fell short of doing that. A lot of them just kind of did their normal voices, which is fine. It was good.
So anyway,
Bryce is just sitting over here looking uncomfortable as I'm describing the movie that I watched.
I'm trying to hold it all. We're at 36 minutes. I'm trying to hold it all in still.
We're nearing the end.
I know we're getting to.
Like
we're doing good. We're doing pretty good. The beginning felt like we were really dragging there, but like.
Well, like I said, I'm clearly in the minority. Like I tend to be 1 point lower than everybody else. 1 to 2.
Yeah, 1 to 2. But anyway, I actually bounced back between 4 and a 5, and I just landed on 5. I didn't even fight it anymore. I think everyone sells their performances. They all bring these characters to life. Like you said, Perito, he did what's his name? Dang it.
It's Harvey.
I almost said what you said. But yeah, Harvey sells this character as just a super lovable, emotional dog that has an amazing character arc. Sorry, not character arc, but amazing presence in this movie.
Yeah.
I know Antonio.
He's a standout.
I know Antonio kind of like he does have his voice.
He's Antonio Banderas.
Yeah,
you can't hate it.
He is Puss in Boots for me. Like I hear his voice, I'm just like boom, Puss in Boots. Like that's the only thing I think of.
I hear Zorro.
See, I don't even think of Zorro. Like that's
he is the animated cat version of Zorro.
Oh yeah, obviously. But like I think of Puss in Boots. Like I think he gives a really great performance as Puss in Boots in this movie.
Well, he also played Zorro in the live
I know
films.
he did. I know that.
I thought you weren't.
I'm not a huge Zorro fan, honestly.
Okay.
I watched the first movie and I was like, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I was. It was fine, but
it was all right. Yeah, I didn't hate it, but
I do think, to Antonio's credit, it is almost like he's continuing the same character.
Yeah, I think
like he's playing the same character, just a little more whimsy brought in for the kids.
Yeah, that's fair. But Wagner does a phenomenal job as Wolf. Wolf is the best character. He does a phenomenal job.
It is a really interesting take.
Yeah, it's a really. I was surprised when I heard his voice at first when watching this video. I was just like, oh, okay, this kind of feels nice. I like this. And then it just kind of like just turns it up with every meeting with Puss. Like you can just tell in his voice and his inflections. Like it's getting to the moment. We're about to have the throwdown, and he does a phenomenal job. I know Jack Horner was annoying for you. I think it fit his character and what they were going for. I thought he did a good job. I know it sounds like Spider-Pig, but he was playing the role really well, and I thought his timing, his inflections, and everything went really well with the comedy that they were going for with him. I think everyone did a phenomenal...
I think he actually had one of the lines I laughed at.
Which one was it, you think?
I don't remember.
There's one at the end with Jiminy Cricket where they're like talking about like the good decision he can make, and he just like lets everyone die or whatever. I think
that might have been one of the few, that one and the Pinocchio.
He's just like, move over, slaves.
Yeah.
Yeah, he has some good moments. But yeah, everyone does a phenomenal job. I think this is definitely where everyone, you did great. 5 out of 5. What's next?
Okay. So next we move into the direction, which is actually one that I do not have the lowest score in.
Oh, interesting.
So Megan gave the direction a 5.
Okay.
Owen Oswald gave the direction a 5. Extreme Reviews gave the direction a 3. And I gave the direction a 4. So we talked about how great this movie looks.
Amen.
A while ago, and that is like, this movie truly does look amazing. And you had brought up the fight sequences, and I think the director's choice to bring in anime influence into this movie truly sets the direction, the style of the movie up a little bit more than a lot of the typical animated action films.
Totally.
It definitely makes it stand out just a little bit. I also love some of the like fighting the giant. I can't even remember what it was called.
Yeah, I don't remember
at the beginning.
I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
like that was a cinematic and stunning set.
It was
piece.
beautiful.
That was beautiful.
It was really great.
Like the director did a truly great job on this. Some of the slower scenes kind of struggled in keeping my interest. Honestly, this movie, when he goes into retirement and goes into the home where he meets Perito,
I thought that was funny. I liked it.
I hated every moment of that. I hated every moment of that, and that's probably where a lot of my score.
I'm so
really
fascinated where you get your reasoning from.
A lot of my score suffers because that scene took me out of the film, and it took me a minute to get back into the film. I was actually with you up until that scene. Like I was like, oh, this movie is actually really like this could be pretty good. Like I'm excited for this. And then he went into retirement, grew a beard, and I was like, what the heck am I watching? And I was checked out for basically that whole scene until probably it's probably until they were fleeing. Actually, probably till Puss had the panic attack. Like it took me a while to get checked back in and to care again after that scene. So that's
nice to know, Tim. Thanks for letting everyone know that.
That is where it's on streaming. So spoilers are fair game.
Yes, and this has been out for it's been like
December.
Almost half a year.
Yeah, so that it took me a while to get back into it. But other than that, like there are quite a few scenes in this movie that are stunning. Some of the action scenes, every one little complaint, like I gave this a 4, almost perfect. But every action scene was treated with the same kind of grandeur, which I actually thought was detrimental to every action scene. You didn't have a smaller one. You didn't have a grittier one. Every one of them was kind of huge and fantastic. And I actually found that to be boring. I wanted to move on. So I'm thinking of specifically when they're at the house and they're trading maps, and then Puss and Kitty Softpaws did that weird little thing where they ran up each other's feet and like danced in the air and everything's flying around them. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? This is dumb. And then it would come back around to something good. So like the death ones were great, but some of the bigger, like I didn't think every scene needed that kind of treatment.
I don't know where you got that from, but okay.
From the movie I watched.
You watched a weird version of the movie then, or you just took it wrong. But the only two fight scenes I see as like granular in the movie are the first fight and the last fight. Those are the only two I see where it's like those are the fights, the big ones. Like everything else in between is just some really good filler fights. I don't know where you got the other big fights from.
It was at the cottage right before the final fight scene.
I don't see that as a huge fight.
Oh, it was
like maybe the scale.
That's what I'm saying. The scale of it,
but not
was
the fight itself.
We didn't need all of that scale in that one scene. Right.
I think you're confusing.
Climax.
You're confusing. Are you? Because if you're talking about just these settings, I think you're. I don't know. I think it's unfair to docket points for that when. It's really the settings are just changing, but they're all grand. They may be grand in their own sense, but it's something different at least every time. Like every fight setting is different in its own way, and they do something unique in every fight to make it feel different from the other ones.
Like what? Like you just said, outside of the location, setting. What's different?
No. I'm saying like I think you're docking it because you don't. Sorry,
I should say
you're confusing me now.
The one scene that does stand out to me, a fight scene that stands out to me as being different than the others, is when it is just death.
Oh yeah,
Puss.
That's a great
That's what I'm like. That is a gritty and personal fight scene.
Are you talking about the scale of the fights?
Yes,
or are you,
all of the scales.
They're not the same though.
They
don't seem huge. You're talking about the setting and where they take place. That's not the scale of the fight.
The size of the fight is huge.
No, it's not.
Scale is size. How is that not?
No, because we're not talking about the area of which they take. If you're talking about that, then yeah, like it's a big surface area of where these fights take place.
So,
okay, the scale of which, like,
what fights do not contain every character? outside of the first one and the one with Death and Puss.
The Cotton Candy one, or the Candy Factory, doesn't include every character. Doesn't the place where your one you're talking about, where the Earth breaks up, that one doesn't contain every character.
Goldilocks is there.
Yeah.
She grabs the map at one point.
Where's Jack though?
Jack shows up at the end of it.
But at the end, he's not part of the fight.
Yeah, he shows up in that fight. He shows up at the end of the fight
when it's done.
Right, he's there.
But he's not in the fight. I think that's unfair of you to criticize that. He's not in the fight.
The whole Bad
He's
Times
not a part of the fight.
Was
and you can even say the end fight, it's only Death and Puss. In the beginning fight, it's just Puss and whatever the rock thing is.
Jack Horner shows up again.
I think it's an unfair criticism, but that's
okay. This was a celebration of how people view different movies.
I know, but hey, you criticized me for Bad Times. I don't want to hear it.
That's funny because I started this episode by saying I was probably in the wrong by criticizing you of that. So come at me more.
No, I did.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway,
and I stand by what I said. And if you keep pushing it, maybe it's a 3.
Yeah, and you can give it a 3. I think you're wrong. Wait, where are we on again? Direction?
You're on direction.
5 out of 5 for me. I thought the movie was incredibly well paced throughout the entire thing. There was not a boring part for me in this movie. I think they do a really good balance between telling everyone's stories and taking time to develop every character to who their characters are supposed to be, including Jack, which is just a straightforward, psychotic, mental man, however you want to put it, psychopath. I thought the pacing was just phenomenal throughout this entire thing. They spaced everything out really well between the Goldilocks bears, Puss and Death, Puss and Perrito, and Kitty Softpaws. It's all just, it flowed super nice like honey for me. I found no boredom in this movie. I was entertained thoroughly from beginning to end. Phenomenal job, director. Also, yeah, fight sequences using that anime style. Big fan.
It was a nice choice.
It was a very good choice. So yeah, anyway, we got It Factor.
So It Factor, Megan gave it a 4. Owen Oswald gave it a 5.
Okay.
Extreme Reviews gave it a 5. And I gave it a 4.
Okay.
I gave it a 4. It's like I said, I can't find a bad review of it anywhere. Everybody seemed to love this movie.
Right.
But it didn't seem to like win a lot at the box office. It wasn't.
It's probably the timing wasn't really ideal for a movie.
I don't
like
think it was
that.
a great time.
I get like the kids movie aspect and like, Christmas time, like take a kids to a movie. I get what they were going for. I don't think it was probably the best choice.
So that's why I give it a 5, because culturally it seems to have been pretty significant.
You gave it a 5? You gave it a 4.
I gave it a 4.
Yeah,
sorry.
You're good.
People, it definitely seemed to resonate with people.
Yeah, totally.
But it didn't resonate at the box office.
Yeah, that's fair to say. Yeah, I gave mine also a 4 out of 5. I agree. I think the Puss in Boots movies, in my humble opinion, are some of the best spin-off movies we've ever gotten from a main movie line. I love the first one. I didn't see the second one. I heard it was good, but I really enjoyed the first one. I think it's a phenomenal spin-off. I think this one is just as good as that first one was for me. But yeah, I don't think culturally it's really going to have the biggest of impacts. Like you said, box office wasn't huge for it, but I think this movie still has enough steam in it and it cares enough that of all spin-off movies we can get, Puss in Boots was not my first choice, but when I got them, I was thoroughly enjoyed and pleasantly surprised at how great these movies are. And I think they'll go down as some of the best spin-offs we've gotten for movies based off of the main stories that we've gotten beforehand. So 4 out of 5, I agree with you on that one. So let's see. Entertainment.
This moves us into full entertainment value.
Why don't you go ahead and start us off with that?
All right. So my entertainment value is a 5.
Good take.
And that is just, this movie wasn't for me. That's all. Like, I thought it was a good film. It was well made. There were a lot of great things about it, but it wasn't for me. I probably won't watch it again. If I have kids down the road and they want to watch it, sure, I'll put it on. But it's not one that I'm going to sit down and rewatch. If I'm going to sit down and rewatch animated movies, I'm going to watch the 2 Incredibles movies. Before I'd watch this one, I would watch...
Oh, come on.
The Incredibles movies.
Incredibles. The first Incredibles I get. Like, that's one of my favorite.
The Incredibles 2 is one of the best superhero movies ever made.
Oh, that's really rough. Maybe we should do that one sometime. I'd love to hear those opinions.
And then I would watch all 3 of the How to Train Your Dragons before I'd watch this one.
Those
again.
are great movies. I love those 3.
Probably
one of the most underrated trilogies.
It's probably my favorite animated trilogy.
Ooh,
like I'd watch.
I'd say probably Toy Story's up there.
I was gonna say I'd watch all the Toy Stories before I'd watch this one again.
Oh yeah,
Toy
Story's
that puts at least
animated movies.
That puts 7, 8, 9 movies before I would even try to watch this one again.
That Incredibles 2 take.
Well, and then I would watch. Well, I mean. And when I want to watch the Shrek universe, I'm going to go back and watch Shrek 1 again.
Shrek 1
and 2. I don't think this movie stacked up for those, against those. This movie was good. It just wasn't for me. I definitely thought this one was... It was too flashy, too bright in a way that reminded me like I'm watching a kid's movie. It had some more mature moments, but it wasn't for me. I gave it a 5 out of 10 on entertainment value.
See, what I find fascinating about these takes is that you could argue and say the same exact things for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse at the end of the day. And that's what I mean. I'm saying more of like that's what just fascinates me about like how people view a movie.
I'm gonna watch that one before I watch this.
Well, but that's my point. It's like you can make that same argument for Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. Like your point of like being too flashy, like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was way more flashy than this one. In fact, that was my biggest complaint of that movie was just like some of those flashing sequences just go.
I think you're confusing actual flashing with like this one was.
Well, what do you mean by that then?
There was a lot of action in this. There was a lot of those.
Spider-Man had more action in this one.
Are you gonna let me finish my thought? There was a lot of action in this, like almost constant scene after scene. And Jack Horner with all his gadgets and that purse, like there's a lot of things in this that are for a kid's eye. I don't see a lot of things in Spider-Verse that were necessarily done just to draw a kid's eye. Other than like Spider-Pig is kind of there because he's cute and funny, whatever. But I can't think of like anything that was necessarily a kid's choice. Or like the twins in this movie that were Jack Horner's. That they were just kind of there for jokes and silliness. And
totally.
Like that to me was a reminder that I'm watching a kid's movie. Like those things are what I'm considering. It was flashy and meant to keep the attention of kids. Perito in his own is meant to keep the attention of kids, but I didn't have a problem with him because he was utilized well.
All right. Interesting. I gave mine a 9 out of 10. And yeah, I mean, again, I don't think it's a perfect movie by any stretch, but man, I was just thoroughly entertained this entire movie. The story was beautifully and well crafted. All the characters had stand-up performances. One of the better villains of recent memory in Wolf, and just an awesome portrayal of death as a whole. It's a really beautiful story of just kind of like a guy coming to terms with like his inevitable downfall and passing. I thought it was just a really fun and unique way to telling it. Not that you've never seen it before, but it just felt fresh. It felt new. If this movie had come out this year, which I thought it did, so I was comparing it to all the movies, so I'll just do it now. Like outside of John Wick, this has been my favorite movie, hands down, that I've watched this year so far. And I'll definitely begin this movie on Blu-ray, 4K, whatever it is. And I'll definitely probably throw it on the rotations along with when I watch like Shrek or Spider-Verse or Incredibles. Like I think this movie has a lot of rewatchability to it, and like you said, it's a great kids movie too. But honestly, for something that definitely promotes itself as a kids movie, there is plenty, if not more, for the adults in this movie. You could watch this with your kids and get a great time out of it, I think. Which brings my final score to, I believe, a 44, 43 out of 50 overall for this one.
45.
45? Okay, yes. So,
yep.
Right in the ballpark there of amazing. What was yours?
My final score was a 32.
All right. And what were our friends here?
Other scores, we have your wife scored it. You want to tally this up on you have a calculator?
Oh, yeah, no problem. I can I'll go into I'll go into some of my final thoughts while you get that.
Well, your wife's final score was a 42.
Okay. Yeah.
Adding that to yours, which was a 45.
Right.
Adding that to Owen Oswald's, which was a 48.
Oh wow.
And Extreme Reviews, which was a 38. And then mine, which was a 32.
What do we got, Con?
205. Divide that by is that.
Welcome to the mathematical podcast.
We're not
average,
good at this part.
The average, literally, this is more
Divided
math
by
than movie.
5 scores is a 41.
Yeah, sounds comfortable. Sounds
So
right.
that puts us, I believe that puts us in the great category.
All right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's rightfully placed.
Yep.
Honestly, let's go into some final thoughts, I guess, of this movie. I feel like we got a lot of it out during the recording. Honestly, do you have anything final that you want to say about it?
I thought it was truly a well-made, well-constructed movie.
Totally. Yeah.
It just didn't resonate with me, and that's what, like I said at the beginning, that's what the average is kind of all about. Not everybody watches movies the same ways, and
Totally.
we all experience different movies different ways. And I actually watched this one twice to see if I could improve
When did you
my
watch
score.
it the second time?
Yeah,
When did you watch it the second time?
a couple of days after I watched it the first time.
Oh.
And actually, the second time I found myself having more problems with Goldilocks and Jack Horner, and it just, like, I wanted to enjoy. I was actually kind of disappointed because I wanted to enjoy this movie as much as everybody else seems to, and as much as you struggle to find how I feel this way about the film, I struggle to see how everybody is loving it, because
Oh, totally.
to
yeah.
me there should at least be a couple people who didn't enjoy it, but you cannot find those online. Like, it is
How does it feel to be all alone, Tim?
right. I've been alone my whole life. So like that is interesting for me. I know my brother didn't enjoy it.
Oh yeah, what did he call it? He called it poo poo on a cracker or something.
Yeah, he called it poop on a cracker. He literally thought it was the worst film of last year.
That's awful.
But it's just, there was a lot I liked about it, but it wasn't
Right, yeah.
enough that I want to make a return visit to it. Whereas, like you mentioned, Into the Spider-Verse is one of my favorite superhero films
easily.
ever. It's probably
I'm almost warming up that it might be my favorite Spider-Man movie.
I think it is my favorite Spider-Man.
like it's getting
movie.
close. So
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2 for me.
Even that one though, I do have some issues with the finale of that one, as it gets
I agree.
It gets a little bit too weird.
Yeah, I can understand. That was kind of something we talked about a little bit.
But like the rest of that movie is just fantastic, and to me, those like important revelations in that film hit on such a deeper level.
Oh, totally.
And it's like when you find out the leap of faith, but when you find out that Uncle Aaron is the Prowler,
it's a pretty good reveal.
and that is who he's looked up to, and it's like everything in that moment, from the way it's directed, the way it's animated, the music construction, like everything comes together in that moment for that. And I guess that's where I feel like for this movie, for me, I didn't feel like everything was working together at single moments to make things stand out. And I felt like all the pieces were there, they just didn't connect for me. And so that's at the end of the day, there was so much to like about this movie. It's just not a quest that I want to take again.
Fair. That's totally fair. Yeah. I mean, I don't have much more to say other than I think my biggest thing I would say is, because like Tim said earlier, temper your expectations when watching this movie. Like, understand it is still a kids movie. This, because as much as I was pushing you on it, I also agree with you. Like, Spider-Verse and this are two different movies. I don't think Spider-Verse was specifically made as a kids movie, whereas Puss has the tie-in with Shrek of being a animated kids movie at the end of the day, with adult like content and humor that can entertain adults still. Spider-Verse, I think, is at its very core,
it's kind of targeted to teens.
Yeah, more teens, and so I agree with you. As much as I was pushing you on that, I agree with you. But I think this movie, go in tempering your expectation. I think this is a perfect family movie for every family. Sit down, watch it with your kids. Your kids will probably love it. I think you'll find enjoyment in it as a parent. You won't feel like you wasted a lot of time watching something like Minions or whatever.
No. Like,
maybe that should be the next
there's
one.
a reason why I don't watch a lot of kids movies. I don't watch a lot of comedy movies because, as you can see from my review of this, I don't like a lot of them.
Yeah,
there are
totally.
I mentioned the 9 kids movies that I like on this already.
Yeah, but yeah, temper your expectations. I know everyone's saying it's fantastic. maybe just go and think, maybe go with the expectation of you're going to watch a good movie and then take it from there. Don't take it so seriously that you kind of lose the fun that you're trying to have. Think of it like a Shrek movie. You're going there for a good time, a couple of laughs, and you'll probably get a lot of enjoyment out of it with your family. I'd even say this is a good social setting movie. I think you can sit down with some friends maybe and just chill and watch it. But great family movie. I think you'll find enjoyment in it.
Also, you mentioned the Shrek, and it makes me wonder if a lot of the expectations for this movie, people walked away loving it because the Shrek movies dropped so significantly towards the end. And it was this kind of, did that like revive that love? Because the world of Shrek is so fascinating.
I think what makes these movies great is because they have the DNA of what makes the Shrek movies great.
That fairy tale setting, everything.
Not just the fairy tale setting, but just like the rich storytelling with these characters. It's nothing new. Like even the Shrek movies, you can argue that the stories are super white bread. But what they do with that story and like intrinsically rework the fairy tale like storytelling, and that could go more into the direction category than the actual story category. Like you can make the same argument. Shrek is a really basic story plot at the end of the day. Like, oh, a big monster goes to save the person, and they find out they're beautiful from the inside, not the outside. The second movie is Prince Charming, big bad guy steals the wife of the good guy. Like,
but where those movies succeed is like their script is sharp.
Yes, the script is sharp. The way that they take that story and make it their own, where you think of that movie, you don't think of another movie when you watch that movie. Like you think, oh, this is just Shrek. Like this is its own movie.
Yeah,
I think that's what makes these Puss in Boots movies so great. They have that DNA within them that even when watching Puss in Boots, I don't think about Shrek even. Like, I know it's the same people who make Shrek. I know it has the DNA of Shrek, but they still stand on their own as Puss in Boots movies, which is why I won't say that. I still think Shrek is a better franchise person. Like, I watch the Shrek movies over Puss in Boots, but I think Puss in Boots still stands on its own, which is why I also say it's probably one of the best spin-off series we've gotten from a main movie catalog.
Until we get those John Wick spin-offs.
Oh, baby.
But
read my mind.
The one thing I would love to see, and I'm also not sure how jarring it would be, is for future Shrek movies to have this kind of unique animation.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
It would be jarring because it's so different than what they have been doing.
Yeah, totally.
But it could be extremely interesting too. Like, it would elevate.
That's a good point.
Like that alone might be enough to get me to see, because they kind of teased the next Shrek movie. Yeah, I know. Exactly. We'll see.
We can hope for the best.
And we can hope for the best. But after the rave reviews about Puss in Boots, wouldn't you have more faith in?
Well, I mean, the ending does leave a cliffhanger of maybe, possibly. So it is. I'm curious. Yeah, this movie made me curious about the future. So. But yeah, I guess that about wraps up this one. This went way longer than I thought it was going.
Yeah, we got quite a few guest reviews for this one.
Yeah, I think we had some really good conversation too.
We did, and like I said, this is supposed to be a celebration of the way different people view movies.
Just know that me and Tim, we push each other to really just explain where we come from. We're not pushing.
We hate each other's guts on a daily basis.
Yeah, this is just more so that because we are the ones delivering the content of the conversation of why we rate the things we do, because I told Tim and Caleb, these scores at the end of the day I don't think hold as much water as many people would think they do. I think it all comes to me, because I mean this movie comes pretty close to Top Gun, but I think Top Gun is by far the better movie of the two. But I still think Puss in Boots in its own right is a really great and phenomenal movie also. But I like Top Gun way more for a lot of other reasons. And I don't think the score truly shows the bigger gap that's probably there with those two, because Puss in Boots did come out last year.
Yeah.
But I need to look back at
and
those
I think
movies.
That just kind of shows, even the way we all watch a movie differently, we're all going to score a movie differently.
Oh, totally.
Typically,
especially right after watching it.
Yeah. Typically for me, a 5 is I can't find flaws. I can't find fault. I can't find flaws.
Totally.
I can't give it it is perfect.
But
and
maybe you didn't look hard enough.
Well, and that's exactly and the part about this is that it is supposed to be an initial reaction to a movie.
Yeah,
so
that's what makes this more fun, because you sit down and oh, why did I rate it that?
Yeah.
And man, I gotta give it more here.
And we all kind of categorize things in a different way. So John Wick, you gave me a hard time for scoring the script a 5. And then I explained later that
I didn't
like
give you that hard of a
yeah, a
time.
little bit, but
Hey, listen, I listened back on that, okay? I didn't do it that hard.
But then I came back and I was like, my problems weren't with the script; they were with the line delivery, which I put into the acting. And the scripts are fine. So we all kind of look at it a little bit differently, score it a little bit differently, and in the end, the goal is to hopefully have that nice rounded average that's going to tell you, like, is this worth our time?
Which 41, I think, is absolutely fair.
41 says
that's
great.
exactly where your expectations should be going into this movie.
I think it's more fair than the many reviews I saw that called it a masterpiece. I'll be.
Yeah, that's fair.
I might go so far as to say it is a great kids movie. It is a great animated movie.
Yeah.
But I can admit that, like, there's a lot of great stuff in this film. It just wasn't for me. There are other films I would rather watch. And that's what that average is supposed to show. That's what's supposed to break it down and give you a good idea. And we love having the audience participation. So Owen Oswald's been with us for a couple scores now. I think he got on the John Wick one with us.
Yep, he did.
This one, I
know
he was on the one before that.
We're sorry. We're newcomers. I'm sorry.
I'm spacing on our other films.
Yeah.
I think it was Scream, maybe.
Yeah, it was Scream. Yeah,
we've had a couple other review pages join us for these last couple, and we just want to say thanks.
Yeah, and not just to them, but to everyone else who's been consistent lately. And like to start wrapping this up here, to piggyback off of that, continue sending your scores in. Continue even if we're not recording the movie, send us a score still, because there's still some movies that we have in our back pocket that we're going to write reviews for on the social media, and we'll still like throw in your reviews with that one.
The general rule of thumb is to get a movie out to have an official average, we need to have 4 reviews.
Yeah.
So if you're sending them in, assume other people are watching it too, send it in, and once we get at least 4, we can go ahead and make that post and put it out there.
Like, we haven't gotten a request for this movie, but like The Northman was one that Tim's going to watch here soon, I think. But and me and Caleb have already watched it and reviewed it. And so, like, once he gets a review, and we have 4 reviews, and we're going to write a review for that, maybe not do an episode, but if someone requests it, we won't turn you down.
Yeah, go ahead and shoot us reviews for movies.
Please,
like,
we're running out.
Make it part of your, at the theater when you're sitting at credits waiting for the after credit scene.
Right. Yep.
Which John Wick 4 has one, and you should stick around for that. I don't know if we mentioned that.
Man, we're really tracking the sending out.
But
really, thank you guys for sending your reviews in and giving your feedback and whatnot. We hope you get more of it.
If you're listening to the podcast, you're liking it. If you're participating in the reviews and you get tagged, share that.
Yeah,
just
share
put it on your story so other people can join us. It. The more people involved, the more fun it is for everyone
Way more
involved.
Fun. Yeah. So with that, go ahead, like, subscribe, leave a comment, let us know your thoughts in the section. I know that we're trying to pick up some more traction here on some of our stuff, and it's kind of working, but can't do it without you guys. And again, this isn't really fun unless we have other people interacting with us with their reviews. So keep liking, subscribing.
I mean, this started because our wives wanted us to stop fighting.
I know, and it's been paying off a little bit.
They were
like, let's keep that momentum
just
rolling.
Fight on the podcast.
Exactly. Okay. So yeah, go ahead and do all that fun stuff. We look forward to seeing reviews for the next movie, which is out. I think it's Super Mario, possibly.
Yeah, we're gonna go see that next weekend.
Yeah, that'll be next weekend.
Yeah.
But yeah, go ahead and get ready for that one. That's gonna be a fun time. And
we'll have our wives guest on that episode.
Yes, I think wives will be guesting on that one. But yeah, that's all I have to say. Tim, anything else?
All right, that's it for me.
Cool. Anyway, guys, we'll see you in the next episode. Thanks for listening and watching. We will see you next time.
All right.